Okay, as always, I better check my audio. Okay, as always, I better check my audio. Huh? That's working. Let me wait for a couple of people, at least one, to join. Make sure that, somebody joined. That means I can actually start the show. Welcome, whoever you are. We're going to start right now. No, we're going to start right now. All right, let's go, ladies and gentlemen.
Alrighty, this UFO story is going to blow your mind. And this was dropped in my lap just recently, and it's one of those stories that is so far out there that it almost has to be real, because this guy was terrified. And, you know, us guys, we pride ourselves on being the strong, silent type, and nothing's going to scare me, and that sort of thing, you know. And this guy was terrified. But what he's terrified of is something that most men would not be terrified of if the situation was somewhat different. And you say, well, Von, what in the world are you talking about? Well, here's the story, okay? This guy, he had just gotten done dropping his girlfriend off at her house. And so he's heading back to his place, and he's going to crash for a while, I guess, you know, get a couple Z's, whatever, and then I guess get ready for work or whatever. So he drops the girlfriend off, and he comes home, and he's about to hop in the bed, and something hits the bed. Something actually landed on the bed. And he blew it off. He's like, well, you know, maybe a stray cat came in or something, and, you know, no big deal. And so he blew it off, and he went to sleep. Well, the next thing he knows, he's woken up. And he says he's woken up as his body is coming back into as his spirit body is coming back into his physical one. And that kind of shook him up. But what shook him up even worse was that he had this female astride him, getting it on, having a good time. And the problem is that it wasn't human. That's the problem. And and so he describes this woman, but he describes this woman as beautiful. I mean, she has beautiful blue eyes, and, you know, an almond-shaped face, and just, you know, really, really beautiful. He compared her to Cher a little bit, because Cher kind of has an almond-shaped face, but not quite as almond shaped as this chick. But her hair, he said her hair was translucent. So obviously that rules out humans. But her hair was translucent. He said, and he said she was very beautiful, very voluptuous. She had really nice sized tatas. And so she's on top of him. And unfortunately for him, he's claustrophobic. And so she grabs his head and puts his head right in her breast. And he said he almost suffocated because she was strong. You know, this female is super strong. And, you know, and you said, well, that's, you know, maybe it's because she's an alien, or it could just be because she's female and her adrenaline's going. I mean, when you got the adrenaline going, you're going to be strong as an ox. It ain't going to matter whether you're a man or a woman. So she pushes his face into her tatas, and she's just going at it. And the guy looks over, and there's this Asian-looking chick. Asian, and not the British version of Asian, because Britain, for some reason, thinks Muslims are Asians. No, Asians, you know, yellow skin, slanted eyeballs, that sort of thing. And so she's sitting over there, and he said that she looked already pregnant. And about the time he's soaking all this information in, he felt something burning his throat. And apparently she had given him some kind of pill that burns his throat and gave him an erection for 6 hours, he said. And so he's got these two chicks. Now, show of hands, guys. How many guys have fantasized about having two women at the same time? Come on now, let's be honest, guys. Okay, this guy's terrified. And I guess he's terrified because they're not human. But see, as somebody that actually has done research on this sort of thing, I can tell you that there's a lot more scarier shit out there that could have been on top of him than these girls were. They're called a succubus. And they work alone. And in addition to getting the sex out of you, they also want to take a little piece of your soul. They will literally suck part of your soul out of you. And it's very painful, very dangerous, very scary. And if they take too much of your soul, guess what? You die. It's called a succubus. You can look that shit up, folks. Succubus. Succubus. And they are demonic entities. They are evil spirits. Demonic entities. Anyways, so these were obviously not demonic entities. These were extraterrestrials. Something akin to Pleiadians or Nordic, because he said they were humanoid. You know, mostly humanoid. They kind of look like us. And, and I'm sitting here, listening to this story, because this is live. He's telling this guy live. And I'm sitting here listening to the story. He said, yeah, scared is probably not what I would have been at that point. At that point, I probably would not have been scared. But it was just, it's bizarre. And, now obviously they don't talk with a voice like we do. They use the mind. And she was actually upset because she said something. She told him in her mind, to his mind, that, this is not how it's been acting. Normally everything went smooth as silk, and this time, for whatever reason, it didn't go smooth. And she's telling the Asian chick what's going on and all that, and almost as if she's instructing the Asian chick, but the Asian chick was already impregnated, he said, because she had a very protruding belly, so she was already pregnant. So I don't know what she would be instructing her on, unless it would be, maybe the medication that she gave him that allowed him to remain erect. And believe me, these now, you laugh at this, but now there is medication out there, folks, that will give a man an erection that women can use. They can slip it in a man's drink just like a man can slip a Mickey in a woman's drink. No different. And it will give a man an erection. It will. So, very interesting stuff, but I just, I wanted to share this because this is probably the most bizarre UFO story I've ever heard. But this chick was, I guess, either a Nordic or a Pleiadian, because they were human. They look human, like us. They look a lot like us. I'm assuming Nordic, but I could be wrong on that. But at least, on the bright side, at least it wasn't an insectoid or a reptilian or a gray, so I mean, at least it was human looking, But my thing is, what about the Asian chick? Because he didn't say she was a Nordic at all. He said she was just an Asian chick. I'm assuming human. So what the hell's going on there? But, the idea being, the thinking being that, they're trying to create a hybrid race that would withstand cataclysmic changes to the earth in case that were to happen. That's the thinking anyway. But as a red-blooded American male, I'm confident that unless it's a succubus, I'm going to be a really happy man with a smile on my face. Call me crazy. Call me crazy, but it's like, dude, I mean, this guy is terrified. And it's like, terrified of what? They're human. Well, kind of human. Mostly human. Like I said, at least it wasn't a reptilian or an insectoid or a gray. Now, there's a book out there called Communion by Whitley Strieber. He was assaulted by a female gray. So if I remember correctly, I believe he was assaulted by a female gray. He woke up having a female gray on top of him. So I mean, I would think that would be a hell of a lot scarier than something that looks human, right? So I don't understand the man's terror, but he was terrified, and it showed in his face too. That's the thing that got me. It showed in his face. If this was all BS, I believe it would be very hard for him to show the fear in his face that he did. Because you'd have to be a world-class actor in order to be able to pull that shit off. And this guy is no actor. He's just a normal Joe. So I'm tending to kind of lean to the fact, I mean, obviously something happened because, he remembers it vividly. But it's just, and it could just be some chick slipped him a Mickey that gave him a boner and made him delirious or something. But the interesting thing was he said it burned his throat real bad, which that's interesting. I don't think anything we have out there nowadays burns your throat, but yeah, pretty bizarre story, huh? I would love to change places with him. I'd love to know where this occurred at so that I could change places with him. Because that would have been the night of my life, I would think, I would have remembered it but for different reasons. But this was just such a bizarre UFO story, I had to tell it. But, the guy swears up and down, man. It's 100% legit, 100% real. And there have been stories of, like I said, Whitley Strieber's book, Communion. And I believe he said he was straddled by a female gray, an 8-footer, not one of the little 3-footers, an 8-footer. The 3-footers are robotic, I think. They're a biological robot, if you will. And I described that in my previous video. Still trying to wrap my head around that. How can it be biological and a robot at the same damn time? Which, that's hard to do. But anyways, I just, there's stories about this, and what it is, it's like, well, it was just sleep paralysis, and, you get a heavy chest, like something sitting on your chest. But he didn't get the heavy chest thing. He just woke up having somebody on top of him. And but he didn't get the heavy chest thing like he was paralyzed or something, so that blew that away. But usually there's this thing called sleep paralysis. You wake up, it feels like something's on your chest and you can't move. And this gives rise to the succubus. But I mean, obviously if you got something on top of you going at it, you're going to know it. And but a lot of times it's just you wake up and you can't move, and it feels like something sitting on your chest, but there's nothing there. And it's sleep paralysis, and it's a real thing, sadly. But it goes away, it's not permanent, so don't panic. If you wake up and you cannot move, and it feels like something sitting on your chest, do not panic, remain calm, and it will go away in just a minute or two. Okay, it won't last. But obviously, succubus and and what this man encountered were two totally different things, right? But it struck me odd that he never said the Asian female was alien. He did say she had a little bit larger eyes than normal, but I mean, you know, he never really come out and said she was an alien. Just that she was an Asian chick. You know, yellow-skinned Asians, by the way. You know, Muslims are not Asian. They're Middle Eastern. Okay, let's not get it twisted. An Asian is yellow-skinned, folks. Muslims are not yellow-skinned. They're brown-skinned. Okay, so they're not Asians. You know, Asians are yellow-skinned or yellowish white, but they are not brown-skinned. Brown-skinned are Middle Eastern folk. Muslims are Middle Eastern folk. They are not Asians. I don't know why the Brits started calling Muslims Asians. I have no idea why they started that, but that's not accurate. An Asian is someone with yellow or yellowish white skin. That is an Asian. Anyways, enough of that. But I just thought this was a hell of a story to tell. And this, like I said, this was live. He was being interviewed live on video. And you could see the fear in the guy's face. He was afraid. And I'm just looking at the dude, shaking my head like, dude, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to be pretty damn happy. Actually, I'm certainly not going to be afraid. Now, if it had been a succubus, well, that's a horse of a different color, because they could kill you. A succubus can kill you. And succubus work alone anyway. So it wasn't a succubus. But it's just really bizarre. Just a really bizarre story, man. And like, okay, well, you know, whatever. But I got a funny feeling I'm not going to be scared. No, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, he was in his apartment. So, I mean, you know, it wasn't like he was in some strange place or something. You know, or inside a spaceship or something. You know, he was in his apartment. I don't know. It came across my desk, and so, you know, I'm going to report on it. And we had, you know, it's kind of difficult to get some UFO stuff this personal. So I had to share it because that's one of those stories that I certainly will not forget, because, I mean, like I said, how many of us guys, show of hands, you know, dream about having more than one female, you know, in bed? You know, I mean, come on. You can't, I don't know of any man that hasn't, you know. I don't know of any straight man that hasn't. But anyway, but yeah, so that was interesting, and I thought I'd share it. 17 minutes, what the hell? I didn't know I'd been talking no 17 minutes. Holy shit. Oh well. Anyway, so there it is. That's got to be probably the most bizarre UFO story you're ever going to hear. And, oh, by the way, just in case you're hearing, just in case y'all are up there, yeah, I want that to happen to me. I want that to happen to me. Hell yes, I do. Oh, yeah. I absolutely want that shit to happen to me. I will not be afraid, I promise. I promise I won't be afraid. Oh, and you don't need to use that damn pill either. I don't need it. I'll be good. I'll be just fine. Oh, shit. But I just had to share this story because I thought it was hilariously funny, because the guy's sitting there freaking, and I'm like, I would not be freaking. No, I'd be doing some other things, but freaking is not one of them. All right, anyway, that's going to do it. Bye.